What the United Nations is, as opposed to what they claim to be, is a story best told in Africa. I give you Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC. Though these countries represent but a fraction of the continent, they are, by academic standards, considered the most well-documented examples of United Nations conduct in Africa. But what I discovered in my research is while there's a remarkable amount of work centered on addressing the problematic relationship between the United Nations and these countries, they always seem lacking when it is time to confront hard truths and find real lasting solutions. Instead, scholars seem set on putting out papers that direct their solutions towards this contentious relationship between the UN and Africa around reform and structural change of the organization. But what about the people who have suffered for the failures and ineptitude of the United Nations, like the 6 million Congolese people who have been massacred while the UN promised this world never again, or the 10 million Sudanese people who have been displaced, denied aid, and forced to watch their perpetrators roam free with no end in sight to the abuses that they face? In fact, it is to the countless of Africans who have not only had to witness, but endure their lives be considered less than by this very institution, time and time again. Why do we only ever offer them reform without even asking if the organization itself might just be the problem? And so I ask that question. Is the United Nations failing in its duty to the African continent? Now, using Sudan and DRC as a comparative case study analysis, I evaluate the response of the United Nations in 3 ways. First, providing humanitarian relief as effectively as possible. Second, their ability to uphold international law by sanctioning parties responsible for the conflict. And third, the protection of the country's resources by evaluating current UN resolutions on mineral and resource protection, all done as a well-coordinated effort and not an isolated set of events, helping create a methodology that hopefully African governments and scholars alike can expand to measure if after 78 years, the UN has managed to commit to the mandates and values it promised all 54 African countries when it accepted them as member states, or whether it is time for this continent to break away and pursue new endeavors in its best interests. For there are more possibilities for Africa than what the world has carved out for it, and they are not bound to follow a path that has been created by the very same people who have failed them repeatedly. Thank you.